Please click to the next slide when you hear the word next.
Next. Music, mobility, and public space.
Next.
The idea of our project stemmed from the current way in which we, Edmontonians, experience Edmonton Transit. We felt that the excessive use of iPods and personal music players put a damper on the musical culture our city has potential for.
Next. Our second thought was, without the experience of commonly shared music in public spaces, how do we know how diverse Edmontonians are? What we would be most interested in analyzing is the diversity amongst public transit traveling Edmontonians. This question arose during class, when we initially discussed the general overuse of iPods and personal players. Since public transit systems have no loud players signs posted, it eliminates the possibilities of having shared and public musical space. This was troubling to us and sparked the questions: what are Edmontonians listening to? If they're all listening to the same genre, then why don't we all listen together? If not, then what are we all listening to and how diverse are we?
Next. Challenged with the task of coming up with a methodology to explore our idea, we reviewed and discussed relevant literature pertaining to our research idea. We came up with the following questions.
Next.
Is there diversity in personal music choices? Is there a correlation between time of day and music selection?
Next.
How is public space in transit experienced orally?
Next.
How is democracy expressed in music choice and public space?
Next. Our first endeavor will be to find out the reality of the transit situation. This would mean going on trains and buses and experiencing Edmonton Transit orally, firsthand. Once we had confirmed the idea of the current situation, we would be able to begin analyzing the musical diversity. The majority of our research would come from musical interviews. That is, we would ask random Edmontonians that had headphones in to tell us what they were listening to on the transit at that moment. We would record what song artists, genre, and the origin of the artist they were listening to. We would conduct these interviews at 2 different times of the day, 8 to 9 a.m. and 4 to 5 p.m. This research would ideally give us answers to how musically diverse Edmontonians are, approximately how many people were listening to personal players and how did it affect the soundscape, and finally, whether or not music selection was more or less diverse in the morning than in the evening.
We would then create a video installation in which we would film a typical Edmonton Transit trip in the morning. We would begin the video by first recording the background noise in the bus or train to highlight the oral experience as it would be normally. Taking note of each person wearing headphones, we would zoom in towards them and gradually take on their point of view, POV. As we take on their point of view, we also take on their music choice so that the viewer essentially becomes the person.
We would then leave that person's perspective and move on to another person, again, taking on the next person's perspective and music choice. We would continue to do this for at least 15 to 20 people to show the level of musical diversity. We would repeat the same video session in the late afternoon to show a potential difference in music selection.
Please go to the next slide to view a shortened preview of what our final installation would have looked like.
Future research could eventually result in an installation in the form of a mixtape of music that Edmontonians listen to while on transit. Please enjoy.